Okay, hello there. I thought today I'd do something a little bit different. Rather than showing you some flying videos, I'd show you a build video. Now this is an old design of mine. It's an old design. It's the Sipa S-200. It's a French mini jet. Okay, some of you may have seen this in the RCMA. You may have seen my videos of me flying it. It's a balsa-wood construction, and I thought I would show you from design to construction to actual flying this. Now this I think is my Mark II version. I made some alterations over Mark 1, which was the very first one I did. I've on Mark 3.2, so that will be the one I'll be showing you, although this is Mark II. It's made of balsa wood. Okay, it's fairly compact, and all the radio gear fits in the front compartment. So you have your 4 servos, one for each aileron, one for the elevator, one for the rudder. You have your receiver in here, and your battery slides in there. And then obviously your cockpit goes on. It's a pusher design, so it's a hand throw version. Okay, so I thought I would show you that. On this one, my early version, because I was frightened about the prop, I have a tow hook on the back, and it is magnetically released. So there you go, you pull it out, yeah, and then it magnetically retracts itself. But after hand launching it several times myself, I've never caught myself on it and found it was nothing really to be worried about. I've also done one on a dolly, so it can be thrown from there. So anyway, let's get on with the video. There are very old pictures, so they're not of my usual standard. They didn't make it into the magazine because the pictures weren't that good, but I thought I would share them with you today. At least you'll be able to get to see how it's designed and how it was built. And okay, so this is my computer aided program that I use to draw the planning. So this is the sheet for part 2. It's on A1 format, and as you can see here, it's showing you the fuselage and the elevator and cockpit sections. It's also showing you the wing ribs and the control horns, air duct, and the wing layout, battery box, and so on. This is the other sheet. This is showing you the side profile and has the fuselage formers on it, and the body in which you would make the top and the bottom half of the fuselage clamshell style, and it gives you details here on how to do it, what side of wood. Where the wing seat goes as well, because the wing has to be sat at the right position. The nose block has to be hollowed out, the boom has to be a certain angle, and the hole that has to be on the inside of the wing. And here you can see the formers for the top half of the fuselage, or the body, whatever you want to call it. And there you go, there's where to position the different formers. The red line indicates where the laser line will go to make sure the motor is at the correct angle and down thrust. If it had gone into production, these are all the separate sheet layouts for all the parts to be printed or cut out of the wood. So all the parts that are of the same thickness are all on the same sheet. Okay, so on this sheet here you can see the tail booms. Now on this part I incorporated the tail boom into the rib, whereas before on the early version I just glued the boom onto the wing, and it was a bit awkward to try and get the right angle, so doing it this way I ensure I get the right angle of both booms each time. Some more parts out of the 1/16 sheet. So here we have the wing ribs, ducts, and side sheeting of the boom, which will help lock it all into place. on this one here, it's for getting the correct angle in the cockpit area of the farmers, making up the battery box, which also helps strengthen up because it's a belly lander where it will go. Also has the rudders on here and the fins on here. Here's the bottom part of the farmers for the body, and it also what we'll call the keels, the side of fuselage that need to be on it, and the tabs you can see there, so the motor mount is corrected at the correct angle. Okay, so that's that lot done. That's the plan. Now obviously, because it's my own plan, I can print out any part I want, and so that's what I did. I printed out the separate little pieces on A4 or A3, whatever sizes are needed, rather than printing out an A1, which I would have to go to a large printer to print out these large sheets. Is their A1 size. There's the wing. I can print out just a wing on an A3 sheet. Okay, so that's the CAD drawing. Now once I've cut out all the parts of the wood, these are all the parts, I pinned wood to a plan to make up the fuselage, and this is the battery box being made up, which incorporates the farmers to make a strong structure for it to land on. Okay, just checking it all fits. Now I need to get the front farmers at the correct. This is the front farmers being positioned and glued in. Once they're in, the battery box can be glued on into position, and the top sheeting, side sheeting can be put on, and then thin strips of wood to form the curve on the side of the body. As you can see, it's all nicely shaped, but it's not sanded yet, and there are a few gaps which need filling. The top part of the fuselage is done exactly the same, with little strips of wood to make the outer skin. Okay, this section needs sanding now. Here's the construction of the wing. This one I've incorporated the 9-gram servo in position, rather than running a snake through, but obviously you could still run a snake through if you wanted to. 9-gram servos are all you need for the aileron control. The top skin is now on and the boom is in position, but on one side you will still need a snake, and that will run to the elevator. So here you can see it being positioned in, and then it will need its side pieces glued on to hide that. There you go, that's one wing done. Now the ailerons are incorporated in, so that has to be cut out later. Now the battery box, once that's been fitted, I need to sand them down so I can get the battery plate in and angle the motor downwards towards the air vent. And here's the air vent being constructed, and this is to allow the air to escape out of the body. Okay, there's that. There's the ply mount, so I can battery strap the battery in position, and here I'm setting up the laser line so I can correctly angle the motor at the back, so I'll get the correct angle of right and down thrust. Here I've filled the gaps in. This is the top half of the fuselage, and now I need to make up the air ducts and the holes for that. Put some polyfiller on the sides of the fuselage and the wing, so I get a nice smooth finish between the body and the wing. Here you can see it's nice and sanded now. And now I've glassed it, you can see, so I've put epoxy resin and glass cloth on to make that all hard and secure and ready for painting. The elevator I did slightly different as well. That's all been epoxied in, it's on the boom using glass cloth. Construction of the cockpit area. The speed controller is incorporated into the battery box, so this will allow air to cool the speed controller, so that has to be done before the top half of the fuselage is done. This is the motor being put in, and make sure that there's plenty of gap around the motor for the air to circulate around the motor. Here's the air ducts being made, and the sheet is made in a way that it will follow the curvature of the body as it is moulded around the shape. A large hole there you can see in the rear section, and some more epoxy resin put around the top. Two halves have been put together. Here you can see the motor is nice and clear. Now before I fit the nose block, I had to fit the cockpit and the retaining peg on the front, so that's why that's done that way. Once that's done, then I can obviously make up the nose block, which is made out of several rings of balsa and then sanded together. So as you can see, it's done there, nicely sanded to shape. Once that's done, obviously glass cloth and epoxy resin to smooth that out and make it nice and strong and secure. Here's the elevator servo that's been fitted just behind the cockpit onto the push rod. And these are the ailerons. So welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed looking at those slides. So this is the 3.2. As you see, I've not finished it yet. I've got to paint it yet. But as you probably notice, is the rear fuselage here, this part here, has been smoothed out, which it was done on the latest design of the Sipa S-200, so that's nice and streamlined now, as it was with the camouflage one, which I painted wrong. I used brown and white instead of red and white, and I used purple underneath. So this one is basically the same, only I've decided not to put the servos in the middle, just to put one servo there, and that will control the elevator. So the snake will come out there and go onto the elevator. Having flown it many times, the rudder is not needed, so I didn't bother with the rudder. I've put one servo on each wing this time, okay, so that I only need a small servo link, wire link between the servo arm and the control rod. Okay, so I'll show you some of the design features that have altered on this one. So as you see, that hinge is nice and slot free, and I've got a push rod in there, so I've got to cut that back and put a thread on the end so I can put a nut on that, and that will retain it, and obviously I can undo that and pull that off if need be. Okay, elevators are the same. I've got more space in the front, so if I wanted to cut the windows out and put a bit of a seating area in the back, I may do that. The cockpit area is a little bit more detailed, more original. I've used, rather than foam on the front, I've used balsa wood on the front, and that is now hollow, so I've got plenty of space to put a receiver or anything I want in there, and it just leaves it more free. Obviously I've got to mould my own canopy for that. Now the original plug I did for my mould, I had to give to RCME so that they could publish the plan, and they want 20 quid for it now, so I'm not going to pay 20 quid for my own mould, so I've got to make myself a new plug to go on that. Okay, I'll just, oh yeah, the other thing, let me just explain to you and show you how I had overheating problems with this very early design, and I had to come up with a way of cooling the battery, the speed controller and the motor. And what I came up with is, see these two air ducts here? One is for the front compartment and one is for the rear compartment. So this front one here, as you can probably see, there's a hole there, so the air will go in there. It'll come into this bay here. Even though that is on there, there is plenty of room for it to circulate around here, and as it's flying through the air and the air rushes over this area here, it's sucked out of this air hole here. So let's see if I can, there you can probably see the bottom there. So the air is actually sucked out there, so that will help cool the speed controller and the battery. Now this duct here, the hole is right at the back, it's here, okay, and that goes into the back compartment, and it will then, as the air is rushing over this section, it will go over the prop and over there, and the air will be sucked out of this hole and keep the motor cool. So that one's now ready for painting, which is the reason why I've got this masking tape on here and on there. So I've got to spray this and put it the right colour, get a canopy on it, and she's good to go. So hopefully some of you have enjoyed watching that. Thank you for watching.